Welcome to Tried and Tested. These are actually reviews of services that we feel could be useful and ones that we use ourselves. This one is actually a podcast review for Entrepreneur on Fire. Now, what is Entrepreneur on Fire? Well, it is a podcast. It was founded by a gentleman by the name of John Lee Dumas, and he's done just an incredible job. This guy has sort of come from nowhere, and by that I mean over the last year and a half is where he's really exploded onto the scene. And by come from nowhere, what I mean is he's worked a long time to get to the point where he can actually rock it out. So this is something where don't just think he's an overnight success. That is clearly not the case. This guy does a ton of work, puts in a lot of hours each week to make this thing happen, and essentially has built his top-ranked 7-day-a-week podcast every single day. The guy's not missed a podcast since 2012. And the way he happens to do that, by the way, is because he records everything on a Monday. He records, I believe it's 8 different podcasts on a Monday, and he goes all through that Monday recording all these different podcasts for the week upcoming. Then he's got his whole system and team that builds out the podcast and puts them out so that we can enjoy great daily content. And he's already featured over 600 different entrepreneurs, including names that you've heard of like Seth Godin or Tim Ferriss, but also a ton of people, in fact, more people that you've never heard of. Those are the ones that actually interest me, because everybody's got Seth Godin, everybody has Tim Ferriss, and everybody's got all these different people that, Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, you hear about those names all the time. You can pick up their books and you can do a Google search and find them spouting the same old stuff over and over again. It's the entrepreneurs that you've never heard of that sometimes have the more interesting stories. It's part of the reason that I like it. In fact, one of my favorite ones, and this is true, I wish I knew the podcast episode, but I don't. But it was one of the ones that I first started. So this is probably, somewhere in the 300s or 400s. But it was a gentleman in North Carolina, I believe, who actually was buying and selling washers and dryers and got started doing it kind of by Craigslist ads and things like that. So it's entrepreneurs of all different types and shapes and sizes. And that's what kind of makes it entertaining. Now, what do we think that he's doing right? Kind of in our own opinion, what we think he's doing right to make Entrepreneur on Fire so successful. We've actually evaluated this podcast as well as the other ones that we're going to be doing. We all have these 5 different criteria. So the content quality, the consistency of the content, the focus, the length on how long the actual recording is, and then of course the quality of the recording, because some of those podcasts, they're great, they just don't really have that great quality. So let's go ahead and rate this one. Now, the first, content quality, 5 stars. This is a really simple podcast to listen to. It's a basic interview with entrepreneurs from various industries. So they're not all internet marketers or online marketers. You're going to get all sorts of, you get brick and mortar entrepreneurs. You're going to have, like I said, we have a gentleman who, one day he's interviewing Gary Vaynerchuk. On the next day, he's talking to somebody who buys and sells washers and dryers. So and everybody in between. There's a huge amount of entrepreneurial DNA that's involved with these. And again, his interview style is great. It's very, very casual, entertaining, and engaging, which makes it kind of nice. Now, consistency, we already mentioned this. He has not missed a beat. So since he started, every single day, you will get a new podcast from this guy. Every single day. He's done it with over 600 so far. He will continue to do it. And his consistency has allowed him to actually build this legion of followers that he now has, which he calls, of course, Fire Nation. Focus. Now, there is advertising within the podcast, but all the ads are actually done with him. And he does them in a real interesting way. And really, you're just going to have to listen to him to hear what I'm talking about. But he customizes the ads. He makes it very, very easy and tailor-fit for the audience. So it's not like it's a super big interruption, and you're not finding yourself sort of trying to skip through them. All the guest entrepreneurs, of course, that's the one thing they have in common, but that's the only thing they have in common. Now, for our purposes, because we are big into online marketing and marketing in general, he doesn't necessarily talk to entrepreneurs about marketing. So this is all about starting business or getting started, being an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur lifestyle, that sort of stuff. But it's not about marketing. So that's why we gave it 4 stars instead of 5, because for us, we just want to focus on marketing. Now, the length and frequency. Entrepreneur on Fire does a really, really great job of being long enough to be entertaining, but also short enough that it doesn't drone on, which is kind of nice. So most of these are done within 30 minutes, really, really quick. But because it's daily, and that's one of the best things about it, is that it's daily, it's also kind of one of the worst things, because daily can quickly stack up. So if you miss a couple of episodes, and especially if you're like us, we listen to a lot of different podcasts. Like I have personally over 10 10 podcasts now, I think it is, that I'm listening to. So they can really stack up if you kind of fall behind, and then it gets a little tough to get caught up. Recording quality, very, very good. His guests have, by and large, they have really great connections on their end. He does a great job of that. He keeps the interviews on track. He keeps the guests focused on the questions that they need to do, and they are the same questions that are asked every single time. It can get a tiny bit boring, because you're not going to hear necessarily something different. But more recently, he's done a really nice job of taking questions and then digging a little bit deeper. So when somebody gives him a kind of a standard answer or more of a rote answer, he'll actually go back and challenge them a little bit and say, okay, you know what? Tell me something specific. What's that one thing you want to make sure that we hear from that answer? And helps them to dig a little bit deeper. So that part is kind of nice. So overall, 4.4 is what that comes out to for Entrepreneur on Fire. It is highly recommended. It is one of the 10 podcasts that I personally listen to myself, and I suggest that you add it on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever you find handy. Of course, if you like this video, you want us to review maybe other podcasts or tell us about your own experience with Entrepreneur on Fire, you can visit us at SeriouslySimpleMarketing.com. You will find a link to this episode. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it in the YouTube link there. Thanks again for watching this video, and we will see you on the next one.